Fresh content, discussions, and great conversations. This is Radio 537.
We left off last week. Last week, the week before. Talking about how the world has really gone wild in terms of sex and money.
In terms of sex and money. In fact, when I tops this topic that we're talking about, money and sex madness, it is actually as a result of a question ehlala ibuzwa njalo njengabantu ethi why there is so much evil in a world made good by God. Because God said after he created everything, he said everything is very good. So now the question is why there is so much evil in the world. And one in thinking, one has to get to a point of maybe trying to get ezimbini noba zintathu izinto acinga into yobana they contribute to this evil that we see today. And as I observed, I'm still observing what might be the cause of all of this. Yes, singatsho nje sisuka nje sithi the devil is the cause of all of this. But surely he is dealing with people who are created in the image of God. People who can think, people who are supposed to know between evil and good, between good and wrong, right and wrong. We're supposed to know that as human beings. But why is it easy for us to do what we do in the injalo? Don't be lula for us to be so bad. To be so,
especially nowadays.
That's it. That's it. And my observation is that there is madness. There is madness. But this madness is attached to two most important things in our lives as people, as human beings. Two things. It's money. Money is not evil. That's one. Money is not evil. It's not good. You can say it's good because you get whatever it is that you want to get. So it is good in that sense. And also we can say it is good because as long as God made it a point that we use it, as a medium of exchange, it is good. There's nothing wrong with it. But why does it seem like money is evil, of which it's not? Because many ills are committed because of money. So I termed this topic money madness because I wanted to separate money and madness. Understand that there's money, there's madness. What we're talking about is madness, around money. Sex is not wrong, created by God, but there's madness around it.
And it is the madness that is actually the problem.
That's it. It is madness. If we can deal with the issue of madness around these two, then we are halfway to solve the problem that we see in the world today. Let me, even before delving into this, just talk about what is happening politically in the whole world. But let me just zoom in on what is happening in our country, in South Africa. Sitagene nesimo apha se COVID. All of a sudden uve kusithiwa kwezi PPEs
Yeah.
Kune corruption eninzi.
Yeah.
You see, people are stealing money that's supposed to help people that are dying. You see, and why? It's because people are following the money. Following the money. Somebody once said, if you want to solve the case, enzima kakhulu you must follow the money. Follow the money. The man will lead you. And what we see is the problem of money. Is money madness. And the president took time to write what he wrote, the letter that he wrote, and then talked about corruption and what he wanted, what must be done. You see, Kubantu who are committing these crimes. Look what happened. What imthathe ambeka phi leyo nto leyo. You know, those people who do not want to separate themselves from money,
Sure.
who do not want to part their money, they said you're joking.
Singasuke sikususe nokususe.
That's it. If you do this, we are prepared to take you out. You see, all of that is because of money. If you can to steal the money that you know,
Sure.
this money has got to get to that poor person who does not have anything, you know, to help herself
Sure.
or himself. And you know it's going there, but you decide to steal it. So that for me means that there is madness
Sure.
around money. And then coming to what is happening also, the GBV, the GBV, which most of the time it's something that you see relationships in the GBV. But let me say it again. You see relationships in the GBV.
Please.
In other words, most of the cases, ezenzekayo, the man beating the woman,
Yeah.
they are in a sort of a relationship.
That's true.
You see,
That's true.
sort of a relationship. And in that relationship, there's something called sex. You see, and unfortunately, it is used in a distorted way, and it gives birth to this to a certain extent. It gives birth to this thing of abusing women sexually. You get what I'm saying? So that's why we have to really talk about these two issues and then deal with the madness.
Sure, Fundis. I'm just thinking as you are saying this, talking about the fact that usually what's common is that these incidences of gender-based violence, they usually happen within the context of relationships.
Exactly.
And I remember another clinical psychologist was actually talking about exactly that. Perhaps maybe we have become too proud as a society to think that we are going to do away with the institution of marriage and not face the adverse reality. Esibona namhlanje. Making an example of the fact that today you always hear talks around consent, because rape is basically that, you know, forcing your way without consent from the other person. And before, when there was, you know, less likelihood and a culture of, you know, sex outside of marriage, incidents ezinjalo zezibalwa pha napha napha, because ngeyonto eyinorm ukuthi singadibana endaweni ethile and let's get it on.
That's it.
And most of the time, you even allude to the fact that most of the time these things happen while people are intoxicated. They happen in the sense of ipat and entonton. And so that's when you find that even this issue of consent, it's difficult.
It is.
To such a point that politicians, when they try to solve the problem, you need to ask even 3 times. And the question that he poses is, how serious are you? How stupid is that suggestion? Do you think that people who are intoxicated are going to be busy asking for consent 3 times before they say, let's get it on? No. Of course not. Because most of the time they are intoxicated and they just want to do as their urges leads them. So I'm really thinking about the fact that nyani is in the most of the time they happen within the context of relationships.
That's it.
Perhaps maybe what has gone wrong when it comes to relationships that we find ourselves in this position that we are in?
Good question. Good question, because I think this whole topic is going to answer a whole lot of things that have gone wrong in the world today. And coming to your question, Domana, what is wrong? What has gone wrong? This is word insight. So I do want Mpulapuli to keep reminded in Dobana, this is word insight. And therefore, we're going to look at this issue through the lens of the word of God. So jonga izinto ngokwelizwi likaThixo siqonda ubana ithini lendo, ithini lendo. Then that one wonders what is going on in the world, or why there is so much evil and suffering in a world made good by God. That question of evil, because this madness around sex and money, it's an evil thing. Somebody once said, when he talks about evil, he said, evil cannot exist without the good it opposes.
Okay.
I've got to read it again. Evil cannot exist without the good it opposes. That alone tells me, Ndobana, there's evil because there's good. If there's no good, there won't be evil. Evil comes because it opposes the good that already exists. You see, and that's very important to know, because it takes us back to who was there in the beginning. And the answer will be God. And one thing we know about God, God is good.
Good.
You see, and everything that he created, he said it is good, and it is very good. You see, and then when we talk of evil, we talk about that which opposes good. So evil cannot exist without the good it opposes, which is the truth. It's not so much the removal of good as it is the corruption of good.
Okay.
So when evil comes, it doesn't come just to remove the good, but it comes to corrupt the good. And that tells me that money is good, sex is good, but because evil comes in to corrupt, it corrupts all these things. And that's why we have madness around these things. And that's evil. As metal does not need rust, but rust needs metal. So good does not need evil, but evil needs good. Cancer thrives on, consumes, and ultimately kills healthy living cells. Now, we're getting to the issue of sex and money. These two things. God is not anti-sex, and he's not anti-money. He's not against all of these things. These are his creations. These are gifts to men. But the problem is that the evil that has come to oppose the good that God has created. I'll make an example of some things. And Ndobana, I'm sure Mpulapul will take some notes on this. Just isn't that are good gifts that God has given us. And because of evil, we have corrupted every good gift that God has given us. One, when we talk of knowledge, knowledge, God designed knowledge and wisdom as good gifts. But sin corrupts us. Listen to what I'm saying. There is knowledge, there is wisdom that God has given us as a gift. But what happens is that the devil comes to corrupt us. And if we are corrupted, we are going to take that which is good and corrupt it. You see. So, therefore, money can only reveal corruption that is in me.
Within.
The desire for sex, lust can only reveal the corruption
which
that is within me. In fact, sex can only reveal the corruption that is within me, which is lust. Corruption is lust. Sex is good. But when I allow sex, when I act out of corruption in me, then sex will only reveal that. So somehow I'm trying to say the problem is within us. The problem is in us.
In us.
We are corrupted inside. So knowledge is good, but sin corrupts, and we use knowledge to gain power. If you are qolasela, you find the people who claim to be knowledgeable and who when we listen to them, they speak, from the position of knowledge, which is good. But because they are corrupt inside, they use the knowledge to manipulate people, to control others. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we ask, he has got too much knowledge. And knowledge also, we use it now to advance ourselves at the expense of others. That's knowledge. Most knowledge is a good thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have knowledge, but the ones who have it first, they will use it to control others.
The ones who are in the dark.
That's it. Abangekayas.
And I'm just thinking for this about something that I was even talking about last week. And we were actually having a conversation earlier on. I said, perhaps maybe one of the biggest problems that we have today, and maybe why we keep on failing coming up with ideas and solutions, it's because we miss the point, in the sense that we focus more on the results of the problem rather than the real problem.
That's the biggest problem.
I think as you're putting it, you basically saying what is our corruption.
That's it.
Our loss of identity, even ourselves. That's why then we find we now become slaves to these things.
That's it.
And then that's why even the madness starts.
Exactly.
When we talk about sex, when we talk about money. Because of the fact that we have an identity crisis, if I may put it like that. And we have this corruption that is within us. We try to bridge the gap. Gemali.
That's it.
And also sex.
That's it.
Someone once said, the problem is that the hole that you have within you, it's a God-sized hole.
That cannot be filled by anything.
Anything except God.
Except God. And we're trying to use sex and money to fill that. So I've talked about knowledge, which is also one thing to control people. Because we are corrupted, and then we take that which is good. When something good comes into the hands of a corrupt person, that person has got the power to corrupt the thing itself. You see? And that's exactly what is happening in politics, in business, everywhere. That's what in families. That's what is happening. You see, you come with your corruption, and then you corrupt everything that you touch. As good as that thing is, but once it comes and touches you, corrupt person, then it becomes corrupt. Number 2, relationships. As God created us, as God created us, He wanted us to have relationship with Him and with each other. So relationship is created by God. It is a gift from God. It's something that we enjoy. That's why when somebody is in a relationship, a healthy relationship, that person, angathi nobe begula kodwa xa kuthethe umuntu in relationship kunye naye kutsho kube right. You see, so most of the time you want to hear somebody that you know that person loves me, and when you hear that voice, you see, or words coming from that person, hope jumps up in you. Because we are created as relational beings. So we're supposed to relate with each other. We're supposed to relate with God, to have a relationship with each other and relationship with God. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But there's a problem now about it. I'm saying God invented human relationships and He intended them to be good. But when sex within that relationship is used for manipulation and entertainment, then you begin to see madness. You see, marriages are disregarded, and divorces take place.
As you are saying this, I'm just thinking something that Dr. Miles would usually say. Anything that has not yet been defined, it is prone to be abused. it is, if
Good.
its purpose is not known and defined, it will definitely be abused.
Exactly. That's so true.
I'm just thinking that really then perhaps, as you are saying, what the failure to kind of know the purpose of these two things is one of the reasons why we're finding ourselves Klemeko Sikuyi. Again, I'm thinking of the example that you were making. In fact, it's a biblical truth. As we are corrupt, we have the ability to then corrupt everything else that we touch.
That's it.
And I'm just thinking of how the Bible usually uses the analogy or imagery. When we talk about sin, it talks as if it's filthiness. And you will be cleansed of your sins and you will be given white robes. And I'm thinking, taking that and extending that example, it really applies. If you are zimdaka, I touch something that is so clean.
That's it.
Because my hands are dirty,
That's it.
the minute that I touch it, I have the potential.
That's it.
So the problem is really not with money and sex.
Not at all.
But the problem is with the corruption
that is within us.
That is within us as individuals.
Wow. That's exactly true. So we have counted, relationships, knowledge, and these two are great gifts from God. And if they are healthy, they will keep us going. But if they are not healthy, they're going to destroy us.
And we're going to take a song, and when we come back from the song, I want to ask you, there's something that you said yesterday.
Okay.
Especially when you're talking about relationships.
Good.
There's something that you said, because we were having our youth gathering yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked, answering the question, but what then? After everything that has happened, after such a long time, even you're not going to church, being able to church, what then? What do we learn from this experience? And what do we do moving forward? And you said, one of the things that you said, there are a couple of things that need to change. And we've got to do dating in a new way.
Okay, good.
We've got to
yeah, that's the exact words.
When we come back from the song,
thank you.
I want you to elaborate on that, because I think you couldn't dive into it. But I want you, because now you're talking about the fact that relationships are God-given.
That's it.
And knowledge is God-given. Now, it's in Lendo of this new system of joling. Let's take a song, and when we come back from the song, you'll indulge us on that answer. You're tuned in to Radio 537, and this is Word Insight, the show that brings you insight into the Word of God. Into the world through the Word of God. So now you can send in your messages. I see your messages that you have sent. Then you can continue to send your messages. 063 698 7566. Mani Pinde. The number to dial is 063 698 7566. That is where you can send in your voice notes and also send in your messages. And if you have any questions, you can send them in. Let us know. Go to anagaloku now upulapule kwaye upulapule undawoni nanga olumzuzu. This is Radio 537, and you are listening to Word Insight. Mfundisi.
Yes, sir.
The question is, what did you mean? You're talking about relationships now.
What did I mean when I said what?
When you said a new way of jolling. A
new way of relationships.
New way of relationships.
New way of dating. New way of jolling. Well, I said that quoting from a statement by Lauren Mead. A city with each change of paradigm, roles and relationships, change and power shifts. And what we were talking about yesterday, it was young people telling us their experiences about Babanayo during this COVID-19. and they said a whole lot of things. And the question then followed after everything that was said. What then? That means, what must we do?
What must we do?
How do we live now? And I said, whenever we change, there's a change of paradigm. There's a shifting of paradigm. A change will always ensue. And when that change happens, it touches a whole lot of things. Kuchinja izinto ezininzi. And I said, even the issues of relationships, they change. Now, I was bringing with a language that is understandable.
Yeah.
I was bringing umcimbi wokutshintsha kwe-relationships. Okanye indlela ethile yokuqwalasela i-relationships. The change leyo eziswa by this shock we are in, this shifting of paradigm, you see. And I think, essence basicinge, we've got to think now about our relationships. Hlobo luni olu as relationships sikuzo. I was just close to death while I'm in this relationship. I must now take stock as to, is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Is it worth it? What am I bringing into it? Indakaphi mna le relationship. And then bringing in something that we do not talk about in the church. But it happens. Abantu that are not in the church. People who are outside the church. Why is so and so? There's too much pregnancy in the church. There's too much abantwana bazalwa outside wedlock in the church. Young people, are engaged in sex, but they are in church. What is going on?
What is going on?
What is going on? In other words, young people bayajola in church, and the jola nje kuba kwiziqhamo zokujola, the consequences of this. You end up having children raising children. You end up having a whole lot of single mothers, because of sex, which is being enjoyed within what we call a relationship. You see, whether that relationship is not legitimate. When I'm talking about a legitimate relationship, I'm talking about having sex within the premises of marriage, which is known. It is a right place to have pleasure out of this thing called sex in marriage. But in church and outside church, sex has become something that everybody wants to get into.
Willis, and I want to ask you a question. There's something that other people they term as sexual atheism, and I think that's one thing that is affecting the church. And I want you perhaps maybe to try and break it down. Maybe this is not a fair question to ask, but why do we find ourselves in this sexual atheism? You find that we profess to believe that when it comes to this area, it's almost as if we disregard everything that is set by the scriptures. Everything else, we don't mind believing it and practicing it. But when it comes to this area, because you will assume and expect to go to, as believers, we are not struggling with the same problem that the world is struggling with. You would think that we've got it all figured out. How is it that as Christians we're still finding ourselves situli so because in your own circles, in your own church, there's certain things like this. Pastors impregnating children, you impregnating each other. than all of those things, why is the same problem that is which would plague the world and not the church seemingly thriving also in the church?
It goes back to what exactly we're talking about: sex madness. This is madness. Remember, sex is good. Sex is created by God for particular reasons, which are good for human beings, which are good for God's purpose for man. You see, and sex is pleasurable. That's one thing. It's one powerful human aspect. Sex is part of life. It is not dirty. But if you are dirty, everything is gonna be dirty. You get what I'm saying? Sex is not dirty. Sex is for procreation. Sex is for, it's for intimacy. That must be enjoyed within that which God created, which is marriage. But when evil comes in, when corruption sets into the heart, then that which is good and beautiful, then we tend to corrupt it. And that corruption, you find not only outside, you find it in the church also. And the problem is that in the church we seem not to talk about this.
And I want to to come to that, because you find to go to these problems that we are facing today. As the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. When you look in the Bible, is it Corinthians? But I'm sorry, I'm just forgetting the correct book. With Paul,
That will be Corinthians.
he addresses these issues.
Yes,
Of sexual immorality,
that's it.
the incidents around them. It seems as if the church is quiet.
No, let me put it this way. It is quiet, but not quiet.
Okay.
It is quiet in the sense that it does not talk about it explanatory. It does not talk about it in a way to teach people, to bring people to an understanding of the purpose of it, when it's done, why it's done. It's silent in that area. But we do talk about it, but this is how we talk about it. We talk about it in a wrong way. If you are saved, if you are saved, stay away from sex.
That's all.
That's all. That's all. If you're saved, stay away from sex. And you don't give the person, why do you say this? Jonga Toban. I'm here. You are here because sex took place. To be here. You're happy to be here. You're born and you have dreams. You want to live life. And you think that you are not you believe that you are not an accident. Here for a reason, for a purpose. If you came here through sex, then why sex will be considered as a taboo topic, something that we do not want to talk about. Children at home, they ask us, how did I come? You see, we quickly shift and lie. And when we lie about it, it means that we have distorted it. And if we have distorted it, we've taken away its value. You get what I'm saying? We've taken away its value. And that's what I'm saying. We talk about it, but we are not talking about it.
Yeah,
you see,
we are loud yet quiet at the same time.
That's it.
And I think it's so dangerous, really, Lentolena, that it is happening, because therapists and clinicians will tell you ukuthi, and behavioral specialists ukuthi, umntwana osandozalwa, the first source of socialization is at home.
Is at home.
So if we are not socialized properly at home, then what is going to happen? The minute that we get a chance to go outside the boundaries of our home, the community around us will socialize us to the extent of filling in the gaps of where at home we failed to be socialized. And perhaps maybe this is the same premise that applies even to the church, but because we are not socialized according to the word of God. Because church is home, church is family. If we're not socialized according to the word of God, then it's easier for us to be socialized by the world, to be taught by the world the patterns that we should follow when it comes to things like sex and also the madness around money.
Imagine if we were taught ngendlela the Bible esifundisanga. Listen, the Bible is not does not hide anything about sex. The Old Testament, the New Testament talks about sex. It talks about it, being enjoyed outside marriage and the consequences thereof. You get it? It just talks about it explicitly. But we hide it in church. And I say it's because of corruption inside us. Corruption, it causes me to want to get it from somebody whom I'm not in a proper legitimate relationship with.
Okay.
It is because I'm corrupt inside. And because I'm corrupt, I want to go get it. You see. And if I'm going to get it outside what God has said is right for me, then I do not have the authority to talk and teach about it. Instead, I'll just say in passing. Just don't do it. I'll be telling young people or people, don't do it.
But ithini ke ukulento lena yokuba you tell young people don't do it,
okay,
and after telling the young people you don't do it, then you are a pastor for this,
okay,
and you are married. You tell young people don't do it. You need to wait to be married, just like I am married. The implication maybe it's a lack of caring that you don't teach the implications of doing it, or as you have said, because you're already corrupt, that you don't want to reveal some of your own shortfalls and say, this is what I went through because of this and this and that. From me, because I've experienced what is written in the word.
Okay. Let's go back. I'm gonna talk to what you've just said.
Okay.
But I do want us to go back to what we need to know.
Okay.
What we need to know. Why is there this madness around sex and money? And first of all, we've got to understand, I keep on saying this, Obana, sex is God's creation. It's God's gift to man. And he has a purpose for it, and is very explicit around it when it comes to tell us what is it for. It is for intimacy in a relationship. It is for procreation within that relationship. You see, God put in us sexual desires, and then he created an institution within which we will enjoy these sexual desires. We've got to establish them. You see, because I do not want us to go there and then living behind Ogoti, what was in God's mind when he created this, so that at the end of the day we're able to see where the distortion comes in. You see, so for these reasons, God created sex, so much that after he instituted this thing called marriage and allowed them to enjoy, to have pleasure, in this thing called sex, and out of it to procreate, you see, and they did so, but unfortunately they did it after the fall. That will be Adam and Eve. Watch what happens after this, when men separated himself from God
Okay.
by the fall.
Mm.
Something happened. We know by God's creation
Okay.
that it was a man and a woman.
Okay.
Was a what? A man,
Man and a woman.
and a woman.
Okay.
And sex is created to be enjoyed
Between.
the two,
Uh-huh.
a man and a woman.
Okay.
And remember, this man is not going to compete with anybody
Okay.
when it comes to this woman.
Okay.
You get it?
Okay.
And even if they have sex
Uh-huh.
for a period of 930 years,
Okay.
I'm talking about Adam
Adam
and
and
Eve,
Eve,
because
yeah.
Adam lived so much years.
Uh-huh.
Even if they had to have it so many years,
Uh-huh.
you see, there would not have been a desire in him to check how it feels if I do it with somebody else.
Okay.
You're getting what I'm saying? Because it's a man and a woman.
Woman. Okay.
And when they come together, the Bible says they become one.
One. Uh-huh.
When they come together, they become one.
Uh-huh.
And that becoming one, it's very profound and deep.
Uh-huh.
Because it means that sex makes two people one.
One. Uh-huh.
That means sex has a power to unite two different persons.
Uh-huh.
You know, a man and a woman, and make them one.
Uh-huh.
And you know, it does that even if you do it outside
Outside.
sex. And that becomes dangerous.
Uh-huh.
That becomes dangerous if you do it outside marriage, because you're gonna have to be united to a whole lot of so much that when now you are united with your wife, the one whom you are legitimately married to, then you always want to go out and do what you used to do. You see. Now something happened after the fall, because we see a man who married two wives, took two wives,
Uh-huh.
which was contrary to what God created. And
the
God
original
did not say
intent.
that. That's it. God did not say, now that you have fallen, I want you to be free to take as many wives
you
as
like.
you want. As you want. You see, but it happened, which means now they have lost
Uh-huh.
the value, the knowledge of the purpose
Uh-huh.
of what sex is all about.
Uh-huh.
They've lost that.
Uh-huh.
And from that time, it continued up until today. We have lost the meaning of it. And that's why we're talking about sex madness.
Uh-huh.
And where does it come, Lendia, madness? If you have a desire,
Uh-huh.
a very strong desire in you,
Uh-huh.
you think about it,
Okay.
you entertain it,
Uh-huh.
it occupies your mind most of the time,
Yeah.
and ultimately you think how to get it,
Yeah.
how
And
to,
the ideas are going to come.
the ideas will come. You think about it, you meditate upon it, it gets the strength, and you feel its pleasure
Uh-huh.
even before you do it.
Yo.
And then, and when it comes to sex, you want to relieve yourself. You want to satisfy this powerful desire that you have. And because sexual desires in themselves are not wrong, but if corruption has come in, those sexual desires will be corrupted. In other words, now, that which you have, which is the sexual desire, put in you by God, and it's not sinful at all, but because there's corruption in you, that will make you want to get it even outside the boundaries. That's where madness comes, because that desire for pleasure, pleasure is what makes me want to have much money.
Yeah.
Because I'll get whatever I want.
Whatever I want, I'll get my way.
I'll get my way.
Uh-huh.
You see, so the desire for sex, it's not wrong, but when it's corrupt, it comes from a corruption within me, then I'll do things that are not right.
And maybe when it comes from a point of a distorted idea of the purpose,
That's it.
because think we're living in a time where we see sex as just a form of pleasure.
Exactly.
More of, of these things that you can, pleasure yourselves in. So because we have lost the true knowledge of its purpose, then we find ourselves in this position where we can now, and someone once said, even the measures that we have of condoms and contraceptives, they're helping, because they kind of completely put a cover on the main intent, because one of the main intent, as you said, it was reproduction and intimacy. It was not just for pleasure. Now, if you have contraceptives and everything that help you, they kind of like say, wait, at the end of the day, you can have pleasure because it was for pleasure.
It's for somebody in our evangelical churches. Somebody once said, seemingly to suggest a compromise.
Okay.
When it comes to this sex madness that is out there. He said, it's fine in church to stand up and talk about God's ideal for sexuality. It's fine. Let's talk about it in church. It's fine. God's ideal for sexuality in marriage and all the rest. But the fact of the matter is, we know people in their 20s and early 30s are not going to be sexually celibate. So at the church, what we need to do is say, yes, there is an ideal, but we need to provide contraceptives in Bible churches. So when people disobey, the damage will be a little bit less. That's a compromise.
Sure.
That's the that for me is sex madness. In other words, we have given in. This madness so much. Now we're looking for ways to accommodate this madness, and if we accommodate this sex madness, watch families dying, marriages destroyed, partnerships, friendships destroyed, because we've given in to this madness, this compromise.
Maybe for this, that is why maybe one of the biggest tricks that the devil has placed in front of us is to create, through various forms, this highly sexualized society that we are living in. Because as you have said, once there becomes a distortion to the idea, and we stop upholding the ideal that God had when it comes to sex, the cornerstone of society, which is family, is destroyed.
Yeah, that's it.
And once you destroy the family, everything that, because the leaders that we have today, they come from communities that are formed in families. Now, if you destroy the family, psychologists will tell you that there is an important role that is played by the father in a household.
Yeah, that's true.
You destroy that because of this giving in to the culture. You go, what can we do? Let's just provide the way out. Let's just cushion the impact, if we may say so.
The impact.
Rather than upholding the ideal.
That's it.
So the families are destroyed, and us as young people who come out from those families, we come out and build a community which is going to be built on someone who has not had the proper socialization.
Wow.
They become so susceptible to the ideas of everyone else, the ideas, the media. Maybe just to even maybe to speak here to another young person, maybe this will even speak to the fact that as this generation which I think it's a young generation that is very much adversely affected by this and going forward. Maybe this is the reason why we always want to fit into the status quo, because we have not been properly socialized And we're quickly introduced to this world of ideas. Having grown up in families that were broken because the ideal Zangibanju. There was no father at home. There was no mother at home.
In other words, Tobbs, we can simply say that the madness, the anger, the bitterness, the brokenness, the misery that we see in our world today, it is because of this sex and money madness.
Sure.
And as long as we try to package it in a different way and trying to cushion the impact of it because we have given in to it, then we're still going to continue having the problems that we are having. As I said in the beginning, and I'm looking at with politics, I'm looking at at our society, how we live, and you can only see two things that are destroying the fiber of our societies. It's sex and money. Sex and money.
Sure.
These are two powerful things. The Bible spends a lot of time talking about money. The Bible spends a lot of time talking about sex. Why? Because these are two most powerful things that somehow we make them our gods, which has become a big problem. We make them our gods. We bow down to sex. When sex, desire comes in, you quickly want to bow down. So much that the world said, for us not to go mad, let's make sure that we create a situation where if this thing comes in, you can satisfy yourself this way and that. That's why we have pornography. Pornography is the business of the day today, you see.
Sure.
It is so easily accessible. It is so easily accessible. Because
the click of a button.
That's it. Somehow we are trying to say, in order to stop this madness, let's make it available easily, not knowing we're getting deeper into the problem. You see, today we have human trafficking. It's because of sex and money. You see, corruption is because of sex and money. Church scandals is because of sex and money. The reason why the government won't be able to solve this problem is because whenever they talk, trying to solve the ills of society, they do not point to the madness around sex and money. You see, because if you go for an interview, want to get a job, I want to get a job because I do not have money to provide, and this person sitting over there knows that I need this job so that I can survive, I can have money. And your husband desperate. So if I'm a woman, you better give me something.
Yeah.
You will want me to give you something.
Sure.
You see, and that will be sex. If you get sex, then I'll get the job.
Yeah.
You get it?
Give sex and get the money.
Give sex and get the money. Give money and get sex.
The sex.
These are twins. They always go together. You see. And if we do not talk about them and talk about the madness surrounding them and how to deal with that madness, and the way to deal with that madness is to remove this stubbornness around sex and money, to let people know that sex is not only for pleasure, but sex is something that in the future, I'm sitting with you, you're not married. If you can understand the importance of sex, the sacredness of sex, you see, and we understand in a very calm, cool manner. Apho khona ungazokoyika uyoyikisa lento inzulu ndiyancancazela xa kuthethwa ngayo ngolu hlobo. No, uyixelelwe ngendlela ozawuyazi into yobana this thing is good. This thing is important. This thing is going to build my family. This thing is going to, bring this intimacy between myself and my wife for the rest of our lives. This thing is going to bring us. This thing is going to bring us children, which are the gift from God. If you understand that, and I say to you, Jong, if you want to mess up your future, steal from it.
Yeah.
Steal from your future. What does that mean? Just keep on getting into this madness where if you want sex, you go for it.
Go
if
for
you
it.
want to have sex, you just pick up a girl. One night stand, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no commitment.
strings attached.
No strings attached. Just pleasure, plain pleasure. And then you go get it. Somebody gets pregnant, and you have a child, and then you get married, and now this child comes in, and it becomes a factor
Yo.
in breaking this marriage. That when you committed yourself into it, you said for better, for worse.
For worse.
Until death do us part.
Sure.
You see, but now this thing that you did, you have stolen from your future because you could not control yourself. And I want to just throw something right there. You asked me a question about the new way of jolling, the new way of dating. I'm trying to say, wake up. Because if we think that sex is only for pleasure, you better think again. You better think again. I'll give you an example. During this COVID-19, something happened where if you sit and fart, if you now the thing is, you're not going to work. Can at least during the day. But now here you are together.
Spending most of the time.
You see, and sex will bring you together. The intimacy will be there. But now, because you are doing it outside of marriage, there's no commitment. It's the way of saying in Dobana, let's have pleasure, but let us not commit until life do us part. Let's not do that. So that if I feel like go my way, I go my way. You see, guarantees. It's like how we address the question of relationships in church. You see, we address them in a wrong way. That's why I said we talk about it, but we don't talk about it. We address it in a wrong way. So much that we have got young people in the church, not only young people, but almost everybody in the church, where they steal. They are thieves who are worshiping God. What are they stealing? They are stealing the pleasure because they are having pleasure outside the legitimate place. You see, and nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to be caught in that situation because it's something that we've got to steal. We do not understand the value of it. So now here, number one, and all of a sudden they begin to fight. And talk very fight. Umlo ubangel ndo ubana atomnye. Ayisuka. Dihamba. Uzamnqanda uthini? Because there's no commitment.
Sure.
And Lushega is broken. And everybody knows nobani benihlala nobayitu. And now whenever you go out the street, you go wherever you go, then everybody knows ndobana you've been jilted. Waliwe, ulahliwe. And then you say, this is what they always say. This is what people will always say. Lo Satan, awugqibundi user. Get that? Lo Satan undi user one the user. I gave him myself. Because I said I gave you myself. We became one. And now that one nail in the image just throws me away.
Just like that.
You see, that's what is happening. Unfortunately, in your cases it becomes worse because there's a baby involved.
Sure.
There's no commitment, but there's a baby. Such madness is about that baby where there is no commitment. You see, I'll just come whenever you want me to come to see the baby, and then I'll take care of the baby, don't worry, and all those kind of things. Who who is going to be left with the problem? It is the child. The child is going to be left with the problem because there's no father. The child grows up saying, why did he brought me here? Just to leave me. And he's angry. We're an angry society because of sex madness. We just got to be frank about it. We don't have to try to be philosophical about it, nor try to be, maybe theologically about it, or fence about it. Let's just be straight about it and say, this is madness. This is madness.
Sure. Maybe, I'm just really thinking, perhaps maybe, nalanto yokuba singa understand ukuthi we have something to lose.
Wow.
We don't have that idea, even when we are taught, as you say, we're quiet in the church, but yet we're not quiet. But that idea of really understanding what men have got something to lose. We don't actually have that mindset, and it seems as if I'm actually losing by keeping myself pure. I'm losing out because the pleasure is appealing and people are indulging themselves, and there's seemingly no real and there's no real result from that. So I have to preserve myself because of A, B, C, D, E, because I'll lose. I'd rather say because everyone else is enjoying
and enjoying themselves, and then that's the reason why sometimes those who are in church feel like they are mocked out of church, because when we talk about virginity, it's like wow, what's that?
What's that for who?
For who?
Why should I insist?
What if I don't get married?
You see.
You see, while I have these sexual desires in me, why would God? This is the question. Why would God put these sexual desires in me and not allow me to enjoy myself?
And for this, we're going to take a few messages up, Islap. You spoke even about the fact that now Lo Satan used me. And the truth is, it's coming back to the fact that is why marriage, the institute of marriage, was created by God. Because you're in as a safety measures or parameters that have been put in place.
That's it.
So instances like those, which then create the society that we have today, they encountered those with bitterness and anger, because umama is separated from the father, and the father says, I want nothing to do with that. Please don't even involve me. No, because sometimes even the relationships between the father and the daughter or the son becomes distorted because of the feelings that the mother holds against the father.
You see?
Because now how to separate how I feel about what he did.
That's okay.
When I tell umntana about utata wakhe, there is that bitterness.
There's that bitterness.
Again, there is no father to actually role model what a man is supposed to be. Well, let's take a few messages as Koya Humfunisi. There's one engenayo. It's a good evening, Tata, and Bro Tobs. Sihleli siyadla ukudla kwangasentla. Siyambulelo somandla ngegift aninike yona. Siyakhula enkosi. Nomnye wangena phayana sithi, hi family, thank you so much. Great truths. We need sex to be taught in the church because it's hard when we get married after being taught sex is bad, especially us ladies. In marriage ke kuba nzima, as we have to unlearn and get to know that sex is good, that years of unlearning, that it takes years of unlearning and learning. Wow, only God can fill that hole. Wow, what a beautiful message. Thank you so much for those messages. We have to unlearn because we have been taught that it's bad.
It's bad. It's bad because that's how That's how preachers have preached about it.
Mm.
You know, how could it be bad when God created
it.
and He created it?
Maybe for this in the
Love
last
joy.
few minutes that we have. Now, what do we do? Tin lento as mhlambi ke to speak to young people, to speak to the church, to speak to the world at large, having seen and understood the detriment of not paying attention to the ideal that God had set. Moving forward, what should we do?
Tops, big question, good question. I don't know whether you will allow me because I'm still here next Monday.
Next month, okay.
And the next Monday, I would love to get into the word.
Uh-huh.
What does God say about it?
Uh-huh.
Uthini uThixo about this?
Uh-huh.
You see.
Mm.
And then we will get a whole lot of answers.
Mm-hmm.
There are questions basically the week I was here,
Uh-huh.
and we didn't answer those
Uh-huh.
questions.
Mm.
That's why next week I want to delve into the word.
To the word.
Today we just got into the discussion,
Uh-huh.
and we talked about this. And even now we have not yet said a whole lot of things that
Yeah.
we're still going to say about this sex and money madness.
Mm.
It's something that has caused the corruption in the world. I don't know whether you have noticed that even the celebs, the people that are known, well-known people, they're in prison,
Uh-huh.
serving their sentence in prison because of sex
Yeah.
or money.
Yeah.
Sex,
Yeah.
money. You see, the presidents,
Uh-huh.
of Manslobana, they get a stigma,
Uh-huh.
sex or money. Pastors, stigma, sex,
Same.
money. Family broken, sex, money. So let us accept the fact that there's madness
Yeah.
around this. And if we are mad about it, it's because we do not understand its value. It has been distorted by corruption within us, the evil that comes to corrupt everything that we touch. And we've got to get there and understand, how do we, getting to your question, Dobana, then what?
Then what?
Sisithini ke ngoku? Then that's why I think, Dobana, it's going to be important that we delve into the word, see about what God is saying. I can only leave abapulapulu with this. Let me just finish this part in 2 minutes. Le besithetha ngayo into yobana we need to have a new view of relationship. It's time for that man and that woman to think about the kind of relationship that you're in. You cannot be in a relationship that is not defined.
Sure.
You've got to define the relationship. And then what indone ezokwenziwa in this relationship. Why are we in this relationship? What is expected of me, of you in this relationship? That's why I'm saying, Ndobana, there's got to be a new way of jolling, of dating. Jolo mninzi kangaka. Maybe we need to look at it ngenye indlela. And then I believe we will find ukuphila if sinoyijonga ngenye indlela and wake up from this. Because one thing that I have noticed about sex, it has taken down a whole lot of people. It has taken down a whole lot of people.
Giants.
Giants. And if you say balega leondo tobani zabasengxakini. And it is state capture ngokwesithetha ngaso, it's because of money.
Money, yeah.
There's nothing kuthethwa ngayo, but it's money.
Yeah.
And pleasure. Enjoying all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Affections in the political parties, it's all around money. Slavery in the world, it's all about money. Human trafficking, it's money. Church scandals, money. Divorce, money. And sex. Murder, these things, sex and money. In the Bibles, we're going to talk about some, stories as painful, like the story of Amnon and Tamar. You're going to find out as we continue with this sex madness, money madness. You see, Amnon and Tamar. You're gonna see there, Domana, this thing of madness around sex is dangerous. Judah and you remember Judas, somebody made him. somebody, camouflaged as a prostitute just because he wanted uJuda ukubana amngene so that azoba nomntana bachade because kwakhwela siko lokubana if ubrother wam uswelekile bechade
you must now
come in. And then we have David and Bathsheba in the scriptures, which is the story at the Bible. David his heart was after God's heart, God's heart, and even in doubt, except the sin with Bathsheba. You see, it's something that keeps coming. That keep on. Solomon and many wives. That's sex. You see, and Solomon talks too much about money and sex. Then we have got Unabod, Ahab, Ahab and Jezebel. It's all around money. You see. Then we have Samson and Delilah in the Bible. We have got a scandal in the church of Corinth that's found in the Bible. So these things, is that are teaching us, and we've got to deal with sex and money madness. Maybe we'll have a solution in our political chaos. We'll have a solution in our societal ills. We'll have a solution in our church scandals. If we can pinpoint that there's madness, let's heal the madness. Sex and money, not about them, but let's heal the madness.
Then we'll be able to come out victorious on the other side.
That's it.
Wow.